How's it going? This is Davor, and in this lesson we're going to talk about mirroring borders. And so we've already shown a few things in the past episodes, and this will be the last one where we'll talk about classes that you can use in Webflow to mirror elements. And so what I'll do is I'll show you how to do a simple border that flips around on RTL. So you have an English website like this, and we want to have a border on a left side that then goes to the other side. So that may be useful if you, for example, have a quote that you want to have a border that kind of just makes sure the text is on one side. So let's try this out. So we have a main wrapper again. Let's maybe add the actual wrapper again. There we go. Inside of this, I'm going to add a box, okay? And this box is going to have, it's going to be called a text box, And let's say we're going to have a quote inside of it, a paragraph, and we'll say Lorem ipsum dolor sit amet consectetur adi pisking elit. I don't know. Kung Fu Panda. There you go. Simple quote. So now let's say this box, we want to have some padding on the left side. So what I'll do is I'll of course not add padding here. We'll of course add padding inline start like this. And let's add, let's say 2 rem maybe. It's a 3 rem. 3 rem, yeah. And now I want to add a border. Very simple border on the left side, yeah. Let me make it 5 pixel off like this. There we go. Yeah. And maybe also I want to add some top padding and some bottom padding maybe. I'm gonna give this box a color, some background color. Maybe like this, I don't know. There we go. Okay, so now I have a text box with a border left, and that border is here, as you can see. However, if you flip around the direction of the side again, you will see that the border stays on the left side. That is because we're using the border left property. And so the border left property is again a static CSS property, which means that the border stays on the left side no matter the website layout direction, right? And so that's the same with border right. So if I add a right border here, we can do that too. Add the right border. And maybe we're gonna make this like, I don't know, whatever. Yellow. Maybe we make it dashed. Actually, I don't see anything here. There we go, red. Let's do it like this, yeah? So we have a black left border and a red right border. But that border doesn't flip around, which is not nice. We want it to flip around on RTL. And so instead of using the border left property right here, we're going to use Border-Inline-Start and Border-Inline-End, okay? And so, again, I'm going to link you the MDN web docs where you can see how the borders work. And essentially, there's going to be 3 things to write in a Border-Inline-Start. We're going to have the size of the border, the width actually, the width. We're going to have the color of the border and the style of it. If you want it to be a solid style or a dashed one. And that is kind of the way how we're going to write it out. And so what you can also use is you can use Border-Inline-Start color, Border-Inline-Start style, Border-Inline-Start width to like define each logical property manually, but you can just all pack it into Border-Inline-Start. So what I will do now is I will go into Webflow again. And I will remove the left border, and I will also remove the right border. Oops, where is the border gone? Border's there, okay, there we go. And I will add a border inline start. There you go, now it's selected the color for me, so always make sure you select the right thing. Border inline start, okay? So the value, let's say we have 5 pixel. Let's make it a solid line, and let's also use the color black. So you can see now I've added a border on the left side. And by the way, you can flip those values around and put them into any position you want. It doesn't matter, see? You can also do it like this. And you don't need to write black. You can also use a hex value. Is it a hex value? I believe that's a hex value. There we go, yeah? You can use a hex value instead. And even if you go like this, you can also go for the opacity change like this. Now it's 20 opacity. Essentially, after the 6 values for the color, you can add an opacity of 0 to 99. And so that's the Border-Inline-Start. And now if I go to the page again and set to RTL, you can see it now the border has flipped to the other side. And the same thing if you just go to Arabic. There we go, you can translate this. It's not gonna have any meaning, but you can see that the border is now on the other side, which is what we want. And let's maybe do the same thing on the other side. Let's add a Border-Inline-End. Border-Inline-End. And let's make it 4 pixel. Let's make it dashed, and let's make it red. So you can see you can use solid, you can use dash, and I believe what's this one here? You can use dotted as well. Those are some predetermined values you can use. And again, if you go to the Arabic version, you can see now that the borders have mirrored around. So we've talked about quite a few elements now. And I want to just quickly recap the few things we've talked about. And so we've talked about the direction attributes. We've talked about the text alignment and text direction. We've talked about logical padding and margin. We've talked about absolute positioning. We've talked about borders. And I believe, what else have we talked about? There we go. We've talked about text alignment, padding, margin, absolute positioning. We've talked about mirroring elements in the last lesson. And now we've talked about borders. Now, there's quite a few more things. In the next lesson, we're going to talk about the JavaScript attributes. I will show you how to build a right or left slider. It's going to be very cool. I'm going to show you how to make sure the navigation bar, the navigation menu can open up from both left or the right side. And I'll also show you an attribute solution to set a date that translates to Arabic. And it's not perfect, but it's like a good starting point. If you want to build something custom, you can go ahead and do it. There's a few things we didn't talk about in this series so far, and those will probably be extra lessons. Like you can set a logical transform, rotation, skew, shadows, object fits. You can also, I've added in something which removes padding and margin based on a breakpoint. And also there's a way to make sure the flexbox and the grid, which we know are actually logical CSS properties by default, there's also ways to make it static instead of logical. So I've added that in as well. There's also the logical float and clear, which you have right there. There's going to be extra lessons on that, but not within this course, because I think the use case for those things is very rarely. But we're going to talk about the free attribute solutions, the JavaScript attribute solutions that I've added in. And I will also show you how to edit CSS on secondary locals using attributes. So you're going to be able to actually go into secondary locals. You're going to be able to change the width, the height, the text alignment, the displaying of elements, the order of elements, just using attributes. So that's going to be very cool. And once that's done, in the 13th lessons, we're going to recap everything we've learned, and then we're going to start building a example project so you can see how everything works. And so I hope you loved this lesson. I'll see you in the next one.